Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Murli. I work as Vice President in Toyota Tsusho India Private Limited. I'm an advisor of our Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce. I'm your MC today. We have two programs lined up in this session. One is Part A, a formal function for 60 minutes, and then Part B, which is an informal session for 30 minutes. And Part A, we have 8 speakers. Part B, we have 8. To begin with, I will start with a welcome speech to be given by Mr. K.R. Shekhar. Mr. K.R. Shekhar is the President of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce. He has over 35 years of professional experience. He is the partner in Deloitte's, and he has written several books in his career. And most recent ones are the International Taxation in the Digital Era and changes in domestic and international taxation emerging India practice. He's recognized as one of the leading tax advisors from India in the guide for the world's leading tax advisors published by legal media group Euromoney. Over to you, Mr. Shekhar.
Thank you, Mr. Murali. On behalf of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce and on behalf of Indian business based out of Bangalore and in India, and personally on behalf of myself, I warmly welcome the Ambassador of Indian Ambassador to Japan, His Excellency Mr. Sanjay Kumar Verma. I welcome my entire team from Japan, JETRO, Toyota, who has been a pillar of support to BCIC in making sure that BCIC's foray into Japan is successful. I should thank, due to the lack of time, I'm not able to give everybody names here. My apologies for not calling out the individual names of my entire Japanese team and supporters of Toyota here, but I thank every one of them. I welcome every one of them, and I also thank them for being a great support for BCIC. And this is a landmark year because this is the 70th year of beginning of a trade commercial relationship between India and Japan. And I'm very proud that Karnataka is the torchbearer of the relationships between India and Japan, not only from the industrial side, but also from the cultural side, and also from the trade perspective, and also from the tourism perspective. India and Japan has got a lot of things in common beyond businesses. The work life, the ethics, the values, the culture, the family system, lot of things, there is a commonality between India and Japan. And I'm very happy that BCIC is able to forge this relationship and take this relationship to the next level. And in Karnataka, we have been successful in having various Japanese companies, Toyota being the leading front runner in that, and Toyota has been a great supporter for this. And not only Toyota, Epson, a lot of companies are there in Karnataka, paving way for Karnataka being the torchbearer of relationships between India and Japan. We are very fortunate that we have the presence of both His Excellency Mr. Sanjay Kumar Verma and Her Excellency Sugita Akio, Consular General of Japan in Bengaluru, to be a part of these functions. And BCIC, after setting up the office in Tokyo, with the help of Toyota Tsusho and Toyota Group and JETRO, this is the first event. What we are doing is predominantly interacting with Indian diaspora in Japan. The idea of this meeting is to connect both India as well as BCIC to the world of Indian diaspora in Japan. And one of the important things is that India has forged a strong business relationships with Japan, and internationally, India has moved up its ease of doing business rankings to a significant level. And in the post-COVID scenario, India is poised for a great turnout on the business side with the opportunities that is available in India. And due to the opportunities in technology, manufacturing, and digital era, India is poised for a significant business relationships with Japan. And I'm happy to note today that the Honorable Chief Minister of Karnataka has sent a message focusing on how India, under the able leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Honorable Chief Minister's relationship, how India is taking all the steps forward to foster a greater relationship with Japan. And I'm sure with the current events like this, it will take much more steps that India will be forging with Japan. And I'm also happy to announce that our colleagues in BCIC, as well as with Japan team, we are planning for a India-Japan Economic Summit in the month of February, where we would like to have focused discussion on how Japan can help and work with Karnataka. And I'm sure with the kind of liberalization and the reforms that Indian government is doing it, where it has moved up its place of businesses on the reforms in coal, in core sector, in technology sector, in digital sector. And I can tell you today, India is the largest user of digital payments beyond anybody. So with the amount of opportunities that India is available today, it's a great time that we are doing this event. And once again, I warmly welcome every one of you for this event. And we look forward for great and fruitful association on the eve of 70th year of India-Japan Association Culture and Commercial Association. Thank you so much for being here, and I welcome you all. And I'm very happy that Karnataka Chief Minister has also given a message, and is also coming later on. Mr. Murali will be reading out a message. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, thanks to His Excellency Sanjay Kumar Verma, India's ambassador to Japan, and Her Excellency Sugita Akio for being here, and also to all the industrialists from Toyota, both in India and outside India, and all the captains of the industry for being here. Thank you so much. Back to you, Murali.
Thanks, Mr. Shekhar. We move on. For the benefit of the members, we'll just play a short video of BCIC. Video, please. Commissioner Industries Schools.
Thank you for all of you. I just wanted to announce we warmly welcome Mrs. Gunjan Krishna, Commissioner Industries, Government of Karnataka. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking your time and joining this event. On behalf of BCIC and on behalf of all of us here, we welcome you, ma'am, to this deliberations. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, we'll move on. I now request Mr. T.R. Parshuraman, immediate past president BCIC, to give his talk on BCIC's plans for Japan office. Before to that, I will briefly introduce Mr. Parshuraman. Mr. Parshuraman was the immediate past president of Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce. He has over more than 35 years of experience, industrial experience. By education, he is an engineer from Madras University, MS in technology from BITS Pilani. Management program, he's done his management program from IIM Bangalore, and he's also done his leadership development program from Toyota Motor Global Learning Center, Japan. And his key achievements are he's associated with BCIC and CII for over 15 years now. He's very passionate about manufacturing, human resource development, supply chain management, and he's well connected in government circles in both Karnataka and at the central government. He has made hundreds of trips to Japan during his over 2 decades of association with Toyota Group. He's currently the president and full-time director of Toyota Industries Engines Private Limited. Sir, over to you now.
Thank you, Mr. Murli. A very good morning. Konnichiwa. His Excellency Sri Sanjay Kumar Varmaji, Indian Ambassador of India in Japan. Her Excellency Sugito Akiko-san, the Consulate General of Japan in Bangalore. Sri Gunjan Krishna, Commissioner of Industries, Trade and Commerce, Government of Karnataka. Senior officers from the Embassy of Japan, senior officers from Government of Karnataka, senior executives, industrialists, corporate leaders from both India and Japan, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I deem it a great pleasure and privilege to share my thoughts on this very, very important, the big day of the first Indian diaspora of the Japanese companies. We started this big initiative last year with the big support from Jetro Bangalore, Toyota Shusho India Private Limited, Intertrade KK Tokyo, and India Research Institute Private Limited Tokyo. I sincerely thank Suzuki-san of Jetro, Yanagisawa-san of Toyota Shusho, Dr. KG Suresh of Intertrade KK Tokyo, and Koboki-san of India Research Institute for this great initiative. And together with Bangalore Chambers, we could achieve this big purpose. We had four important goals through this Japan office in Tokyo. The first big goal is people-to-people connect and to promote cultural exchange, enhancing investments and business opportunities between Japan and India, promoting tourism in both the countries, and sharing of best practices in all walks of life and business. And we got a tremendous support. Myself and the current president, Mr. Shekhar, we had a lot of discussions with our team, with the current government of Karnataka, and I'm very happy that we got a tremendous support from the government of Karnataka and government of India. And the Honorable Chief Minister, Sri Bommai, has extended his greetings. In fact, we are very thankful also to the Industry Minister, Sri Murugesh Nirani, who has been also our friend, philosopher, and guide in promoting industry and trade. He has also sent his video message I'm very happy to say on this occasion that Government of Karnataka has taken several steps to promote industrialization and to attract foreign investors, especially from Japan. The Tumkur Park, Japanese Park, is very much ready now, and we expect that this will be a flagship park in the country to attract a lot of investors from Japan. Then the Government of Karnataka has started the ABC policy, affidavit-based clearance, which means within 3 months, the companies can start their businesses without approvals, and they can get their approvals in the 3 years of time. This is a great step in the country. And thirdly, the turnover-based incentive, which means the incentive is no more SGST, the new industrial manufacturing policy, which promotes the incentives based on turnover, and also promote companies to establish outside Bangalore to promote industrialization in the other parts of Karnataka, and the land bank policy, which promotes industries to buy the land directly from the farmers. So all these great steps, and also the promoting the single window channel, the current commissioner, Sri Gunjan Krishna ji, is very, very active, and we have been working very actively with the commissioner's office in promoting ease of doing business. So I'm very happy that this also coincides with the 70th year of our relationship between Japan and India, and also the 75th year shortly coming the next year of Indian independence, which is another significant milestone in the annals of Indian history. So this is a great beginning for both the countries, and also Namma Karnataka, we said it is a gateway to the future India. So I'm sure this will usher in many, many activities in trade, industry, commerce, networking, tourism, hospitality, food, and many, many things to usher. And as the president said, a lot of similarities between India and Japan in terms of culture, in terms of practices, people, and many companies are centered around Bangalore and in India. And this is going to be a great step. Once again, thank you very much. And I also wish all my friends in Japan and India a Merry Christmas and a very, very Happy New Year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. We now request His Excellency Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma, Ambassador of India in Japan, Tokyo, to give his address. Before I do that, just a brief introduction about Mr. Sanjay Kumar Verma. His Excellency Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma has graduated from Patna University and has passed his postgraduate degree in physics at IIT Delhi. And he started as an officer in Indian Foreign Service in 1988. He was stationed in Consul General of India, Hong Kong, and at the Embassy of India in China, Vietnam, and Turkey before serving at the Consul General of India in Milan, Italy. Ambassador Verma was also the Indian ambassador to the Republic of Sudan. Following his tenure at Sudan, Ambassador Verma served as Joint Secretary at MEA, New Delhi. Ambassador Verma is deeply passionate about information technology, artificial intelligence, cyber diplomacy, delivery of people-centric services using interactive technologies, guiding and facilitating small businesses and investors, etc. He reads, writes, and speaks Hindi, English, and Chinese. He has conversational skills in Bengali as well. Ambassador Verma is married with a son and a daughter. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for introducing me. Akiko Sugito-san, Consul General Japan in Bengaluru. Shri R.K. Shekhar, President BCIC. Shri Gunjan Krishna, Commissioner, Department of Industry of State Government of Karnataka. Shri Parasuraman, immediate past President of BCIC. Takashi Suzuki-san, Director General, JETRO, Bengaluru. Kubuki-san, who has been a great facilitator. Distinguished guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and konnichiwa. It is a matter of great pleasure for me to attend the Indian Diaspora Meet being organized to commemorate the 70th glorious year of establishment of India-Japan diplomatic relationship. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this timely event. The event coincides with the celebrations of 75th anniversary of India's independence being celebrated as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Japan has always been a fascinating destination for Indians due to its rich culture, traditions, and of course, opportunities. The arrival of Indians in Japan for business and commercial interests began in 1870s at the two major ports at that time open in Yokohama and Kobe. More Indians entered Japan during World War I when Japanese products were sought to fill gaps in demand of war-torn Europe. There are approximately 40,000 Indians in Japan. About 40% of Indian residents in Japan live in Tokyo, Kanagawa, Chiba, and Saitama. The concentration of Indian residents into Tokyo's Edogawa-ku and Kotoku districts is contributing to the development of the Nishikasai community, which is also known as Little India in Japan, which is encouraging further inflows of Indians. I'm very grateful to the authorities of Edogawa-ku who have taken special interest in creating appropriate socio-cultural environment for Indian community to be integrated in that district. The Indian diaspora in Japan has been a strong bridge to bring India and Japan closer every day. Indian diaspora have been in forefront in passing Indian traditions, culture, values, morals, and more from one generation to another. In the reverse direction, the diaspora has seamlessly integrated with the country of their adoption, in this case, Japan, while maintaining very close links with their ethno-cultural roots in India. As India moves ahead on the path of development at a rapid pace, the goodwill and support of Indian diaspora abroad cannot be overemphasized. India and Indianness is spreading globally and indeed in Japan too. For my friends in the Indian diaspora who have joined us today, I would like to say that while India is your Janmabhoomi, Japan is your Karmabhoomi. I expect you to maintain a fine balance between your duties for both and act as a bridge between the two countries, utilizing your language, culture, and overall understanding of business practices in the two countries. Economic relations are the fulcrum of India-Japan partnership. India is the largest recipient of official development assistance from Japan. Japan is the fifth largest source of investment in India. Japan is partnering in several key infrastructure development projects in India. However, when we come to the trade, there is a huge potential in trade to move north. Because if we look at the percentage term of each other's exports and imports bound to our countries, they are indeed very, very small. Moving forward, because this office, which is set up in Tokyo by BCIC, needs to look at both the existing fabric of Indian diaspora within Japan, as well as the future which holds for this diaspora. Being one of the largest startup ecosystems in the world, with over 60,000 startups now, with 60 unicorns, with a valuation, total valuation of $150 billion US. India-Japan engagement through collaboration in innovation and startup ecosystem is an important and critical bilateral partnership for the future. Japanese venture capitalists have shown particular interest in investing in Indian technology startups, for which Bengaluru happens to be a hub. India and Japan businesses have also set up a US $180 million emerging technology and innovation fund of funds to boost investment in Indian technology startups. It is the right time for business to business, people to people, society to society engagements. And I'm confident that their ties will take the India-Japan bilateral partnership to a new height. India and Japan, moving into the future, has a strong complementarity, sharing same values and visions of world peace, stability, prosperity, democracy, and sustainable development. India and Japan are capable of responding to global and regional challenges in keeping with their global partnership. I'm of the view that this partnership has to be further embellished through co-innovation, co-creation, and co-production. Both Japan and India are rich in innovation and should actively collaborate in translating them into industrial products. Our efforts should be to create more such synergies and adopt them in accordance with the local conditions existing in our two countries. Since we have convergence in values and culture, we are more respectful for each other's traditions and practices. This understanding goes a long way in doing business with each other. However, we should never try to create a replica of India in Japan and vice versa. We should attempt at value addition to the existing ecosystem of practices and the ways business is done in our respective countries. 2022 will mark the 70 years of establishment of our diplomatic relation. As we look ahead at this important milestone, we find ourselves in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic, which, along with posing several challenges, has also opened up new opportunities for cooperation. BCIC is urged to identify those opportunities, find the gaps in each other's supply chains, fill in those gaps to take the relationship to the next notch higher than what it exists today. In today's fragmented, fractured, and multipolar world, the growing convergence in India-Japan partnership on strategic and economic issues has immense potential to shape a peaceful, secure, and sustainable world. In conclusion, I wish to congratulate Bangalore Chamber of Commerce and Industry on organizing this event and also thank them for inviting me to be a part of it. I would also like to extend my best wishes to everyone for the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav and upcoming 70th year of establishment of diplomatic relation between India and Japan. To my Indian diaspora friends in India, friends in Japan, thank you very much for joining this event, and I hope you will be a true bridge to do business as well as to expand the cultural affinity between our two countries. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Dhanyavad. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the insightful talk. And we do acknowledge the vast potential that lays ahead with the India-Japan relationship for our grabbing. Thanks once again. We now move on. We'll just play a video of Mr. Murugesh Nirani, Honorable Industry Minister of Government of Karnataka. Mr. Minister has sent us a video a while ago since he's preoccupied in the Legislative Assembly. Just tune into it. Thank you.
Dear friends, Namaskar. Continuing to note of BCIC going overseas and opportunizing its first international office in Tokyo, Japan. My heartfelt congratulations to BCIC team. The year 2022 will mark the commemoration of the 70th year of diplomatic ties between India and Japan. The relationship between the two countries as well all know goes back to the times of Lord Gautam Buddha, and there are many similarities in our cultures. India and Japan also have commonly shared values of democracy, freedom and respect for rules of law. I request the entire Indian community, participants and embraces the theme of co-working with a commitment for a strong strategic partnership between India and Japan, keeping a long-term vision of strengthening our long-standing bilateral friendship. Bengaluru in particular and Karnataka in general holds a very strong relationship with Japan. We are keen to strengthen our relationship further. We are already home to over 500 Japanese companies operating in Karnataka across various industry sectors. We have also recently developed the Japanese Industrial Township in Tumkuru, located very close to Bengaluru. The township is spread across 520 acres and has all the infrastructure facilities like roads, uninterrupted power supply, water supply in place. The township is also well-planned. Companies such as Showa India and a Toyota group of companies have already invested in this industrial township. As you might be aware, we had announced our new industrial policy for the period 2020-25. Within the policy, our mission is to make Karnataka a global manufacturing hub and to achieve higher-end sustainable industrial growth through capital infusion, technology transfer, world-class industrial infrastructures with best global standards. The policy emphasizes an advanced manufacturing R&D and innovation and built up on Karnataka leadership. Position in the field of innovation where we rank number 1 in the country. We are the startup capital of India. The industrial policy aims to boost large-scale as well as MSME industries by introducing various incentives across sectors. For the first time in India, Karnataka has adopted a turnover-based incentive system to ensure balanced industrial development of the state. We have also taken measures to make it easier to procure land directly from farmers. We have also been at the forefront of introducing labor reforms while ensuring conveniences for both employers and employees. Moreover, to enhance our labor skilling, we are planning to provide subsidies to investors to enhance skill levels further across the states and especially in the less developed regions. We have ensured that any approved project can start the next day without waiting for any downstream approvals by suitable amendments to Karnataka Industries Facilities and Act. With this amendment, investors are not required to obtain approvals or clearances from different government agencies for a period of 3 years or until commercial operation begins. All of this has been done to ensure more and more investments flow into the state and particularly in the Tier 2 towns, that is Mysuru, Mangaluru, Hubballi, Dharwad, Belgavi, etc. India can become the innovation factory for the world and we have all the potential to become self-sufficient and Atmanirbhar. Atmanirbhar Bharat is the vision of the Prime Minister Sri Narendra Bhai Modi ji of making India a self-reliant nation. Let us all aim to become self-reliant and not self-centered. We would like to strengthen our relationship further with Japan with the support of our Honorable Chief Minister Sri Basavaraj Bommai and the central government. We assure you of our full support. Please pass on the good message to your friends in Japan and let us strengthen the relation furthermore. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for highlighting the various benefits and incentives that are available in Karnataka for Japanese entrepreneurs to set up offices here. Thanks once again. We just move on to the next topic. This is on India-Japan relationship, investment opportunities and tourism landscape. I now invite Mr. Vikram Kirloskar, Vice Chairman, Toyota Kirloskar Motor Private Limited, and past President, Confederation of Indian Industry, to do the talking. Before that, let me just briefly introduce Mr. Kirloskar. Kirloskar is a mechanical engineer from MIT, and he is the 4th generation member of the Kirloskar Group, which started business in 1888. He's the Chairman and Managing Director of Kirloskar Systems Limited and Vice Chairman of Toyota Kirloskar Motor. He lives in Bangalore, Karnataka, and is responsible for partnering the Toyota Group and starting a major automobile manufacturing industry in the state. For this, he has been recognized by the government and presented with the Suvarna Karnataka Award. Mr. Kirloskar started working in the family business after college, initially in production engineering. He designed and developed many processes and machine tools early in his career. He is involved in many activities at MIT and serves on the Educational Council and also serves on the Board of Trustees of the Rhode Island School of Design. And he has got several joint ventures with Toyota Group and with other business entities. Mr. Kirloskar likes wine and enjoys cooking and good food. Both he and Gitanjali, his wife, play golf regularly and spend a lot of time traveling and exploring. They have a daughter and a grandson. Over to you, Mr. Kirloskar.
Sri Baswaraj Bommai, Honorable Chief Minister of Karnataka, Dr. Murugesh Nirani, Honorable Minister for Large and Medium Industries, Government of Karnataka, His Excellency Sri Sanjay Kumar Verma, Ambassador of India to Japan, Her Excellency Madam Sugita Akiko, Consul General of Japan in Bengaluru, and other dignitaries in the virtual platform, ladies and gentlemen. Kombawa, Namaskar. At the outset, my heartfelt congratulations to the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce for operationalizing their first international office in Japan. This office aims to support the initiatives of both the Indian and the Japanese government in promoting business, people-to-people connect, and cultural exchanges. This initiative is aptly timed, coinciding with the 70th anniversary celebrations of the establishment of diplomatic ties between India and Japan. As you all know, Japan and the city of Bangalore has had a long cherished relationship in business, cultural exchanges, and tourism. We have the best of manufacturing technology companies operating from Bangalore, servicing the world. We have seen many India-Japan summits, Japan Haba, etc., all showcasing Japan. Many Japanese travel down here to enjoy the weather of Bangalore, its cosmopolitan outlook, and also to see other parts of India in their journey. India is known for its rich heritage and culture. There are so many places to look around and learn from the historical past. In the last few decades, India, and in particular Bengaluru, has gained popularity for innovation and technology. This trend is likely to continue in the near future. Opportunities in new age mobility, food processing, health and hygiene, plug-and-play industrial parks, semiconductor, renewable energy, aerospace, defense, recycling, carbon emissions reduction are abundant and promising. Karnataka has a large share in the research and development sector of our country and has a vast pool of skilled workforce. Bangalore has been the startup hub for India for many, many years. I, as a businessman, partnered with Toyota Motor Corporation Japan through their support, have seen a sea change in the mobility space in India over the past 2.5 decades. The focus on health and safety, respect for each other, discipline, time management, kaizen, cleanliness, quality management, and many more is something that I always cherish with the Japanese. The Karnataka government has set up an industrial park exclusively for Japanese companies near Bangalore with the best of infrastructure. There are several opportunities to invest. The government has also been cooperative and friendly to investors. Recently, the government has come up with an affidavit-based clearance system, amendments in laws to acquire land from farmers for starting industries, turnover-based incentive system, relaxation in labor laws, cluster-type industrial area setups, and many more. Focus is also laid to ensure employment and investment reaches other part of Karnataka by encouraging industries in Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities. I'm also happy to understand and to note that BCIC has set up a committee for ease of doing business, led by Mr. M.N. Vidyashankar, IAS, retired Additional Chief Secretary, for taking up all the pain points of industry. As we step towards celebrating this important milestone of 70 years in 2022, we have to be stronger and build on the foundations that are laid so far. Mutual exchange on human values, innovation, best business practices, co-working, Respect for rules and laws are the driving point for the future. I wish all of you a pleasant stay in Japan. As brand ambassadors of India in the emerging COVID-19 scenario, spread the good deeds of India to your friends there. I also wish BCIC all the very best in their Japanese initiative. Wish you and all your families a happy 2022. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your encouraging words for investment in Karnataka. We noted that. We move on to the next speaker. We have Mr. Takashi Suzuki. Mr. Suzuki is the Director General of JETRO in Bengaluru. Mr. Suzuki joined JETRO in 1994. He focuses on business promotion work with Asian countries and has been stationed in Nigeria, Belgium, Bangladesh, etc. He is head of JETRO Bengaluru since 2018. In 94, he joined JETRO in Trade Fair Department, moved on to Fukushima office in 1996, then moved on to Japan Overseas Development Corporation in 1998 and became a trade commissioner in the year 2000. He was the director of JETRO Brussels in 2000 from 2002 to 2005, and thereafter he was the deputy director, Trade Development Department from 2005 to 2009 in Japan. He was a representative of JETRO Dhaka from the year 2009 to 2013, and he was a director of Trade Development Department from 2013 to 2015. And currently, from 2018 onwards, he is the Director General in JETRO Bengaluru. And Mr. Suzuki is very cooperative and has been a great support for BCIC's Japan office initiative. Over to Mr. Suzuki.
Good day, everyone. Konnichiwa, konbanwa. First of all, I would like to thank very much the organizer of this event, BCIC, KR Shekhar-san, Parashuraman-san, all the executive members of BCIC for inviting me to this very, very interesting event and giving me the opportunity to speak. It is also my honor to be together in this event with His Excellency Baruma Taishi and Sugita Soryoji. I also feel privileged to see the participation by Honorable Chief Minister, Mr. Basavaraj Bommai, and the Industry Minister, Mr. Murugesh Nirani, Karnataka State Government. As we have many speakers and various topics today in this event, I would like to focus on just one topic. It is about our annual survey result published just last week. This survey was conducted between last September and October. We got the answers from 7,575 Japanese companies in 82 countries, among all 281 from Japanese companies in India. And after its press release in Japan last week, many Japanese media reported like this. Most of the articles were headlined, Japanese business in India show the most positive prospect in the world. And this is the points of the survey. 70.1% of Japanese companies operating in India said they will expand their business operations in the next 1 to 2 years. And it's the highest percentage among the 82 countries. This is amazing. And the second paragraph is saying about operating income. And those Japanese business operating income compared to the previous year, 59.6% of companies answered that it would improve in 2020. And actually it is the V-shaped recovery after COVID happened. And third paragraph is saying that many of the Japanese companies are now keen to do the e-commerce business. EC increased from more than 20% to more than 40% compared to before COVID time. On the other hand, their challenge is that it's a bit difficult for them to find out the human resources who can handle the digital technology. And they also keen to collaborate with local startups. These are the features. And this slide is showing India's top country aiming expansion. This figure shows those countries in Asia. And more than 50% of companies in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Vietnam, and Taiwan responded they would expand. On the other hand, countries like Myanmar, Sri Lanka, New Zealand, Hong Kong, Macau, they are rather showing less positive aspect for their close future. And from these facts explained in our survey, I could get my personal implication like this. And the first one is existing Japanese business in India, the most forward-looking and active in the world. And second thing is digitization of Japanese business globally is the key challenge. Actually, we should take advantage of foreign talents and startups. And these two trends made me convinced that India becomes more important to Japanese business, even from now on. And to make our relationship more effective, it is rather Japanese side to diversify its business sectors to work with India and create new business model for the future. Some example could be manufacturing plus digital technology. We must promote more Japanese SMEs in India or create more collaboration with startups, more opportunities for Indian talents to work for Japanese business, etc. And from a bit different point of view, happiness index of existing Japanese companies is the key to promote Japanese newcomers to India, I believe. We don't want to lose this momentum and to keep convincing them business environment and ease of doing business in India are the most critical. And my humble request to Indian government for continuous or further support to Japanese business in India. And last but not the least, to create the new relation between two countries, I think we need to diversify our mindset towards India too. And I believe Indian diaspora in Japan could be the closest source to it. You could give us the positive influence to step ahead. And this is our last slide showing our worldwide and domestic network. The most interesting part is that we have 51 offices in Japan. Almost all the states in Japan have JETRO office. It means any Indian business person residing in Japan can approach my colleague very easily. I expect there will be more chances for us to interact with the Indian diaspora to develop two countries' relations. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Suzuki-san. Very informative and very clear presentation from your side. We do know there are opportunities that exist for Japanese companies to invest in India and to expand their operations here. We move on to the next subject now. These are addresses from the Honorable Chief Minister of Karnataka, Basuraj Bommai, on the Karnataka's relationship with Japan. In view of his preoccupation at the Legislative Assembly, he has sent us a message. We are displaying that message on screen to you and read it out for your information. Basuraj Bommai, Chief Minister, message. I am pleased to know about plans of Bangalore Chamber of Commerce and Industry to operationalize their first international office in Japan. Hearty congratulations on their teamwork. India and Japan have a long-standing cordial relationship for several centuries. As we look forward to commemorate 70th year of diplomatic ties between India and Japan, we are hopeful that in the post-COVID world, this relationship will have a defining say in the geopolitical and geostrategic emerging scenario. Japan is the fifth largest investor in Indian economy, and Karnataka is home to over 500 Japanese companies operating across India industry sectors. We have also planned a dedicated Japanese industrial township in the Tumkuru district. This township will provide world-class infrastructure facilities for industries. Companies such as Showa India and Kirloskar Toyota Textile Machinery have already invested in this industrial township. We also have the Japan-India Startup Hub, the online platform to bridge the gap between India and Japanese startup ecosystem and enable meaningful synergies to promote joint innovation in both economies. the government of Karnataka has taken several measures to enhance investor friendliness in the state. As we step towards celebrating this most important milestone of 70 years, we have to be focused on building a stronger partnership. Our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, is very passionate about a strong India-Japan friendship. And you know, many things are happening in India with Japanese collaboration. You're all brand ambassadors of our country, and I hope that you play a crucial role in strengthening bilateral ties in all dimensions. Wishing you and your families a very happy New Year 2022. Mr. Basuraj Bommai, that's a message for you. Thank you, sir, for the message. We noted your heartfelt greetings and also noted the opportunities that exist for Japanese in India. Thank you, sir. We move on to the next subject. We have Her Excellency Sugito Akiko, Consul General of Japan in Bengaluru. And let me just briefly introduce Sugito-san. Sugito-san joined Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan in 1981. She did her arts in Spanish language in 1981 and thereafter joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She finished her BA in History from Williams College, USA in 1984, and during her long career, starting from 1981, she has held several positions. She was in San Francisco from January 2003 to 2005 as consul, and New York in May 2005 to September 2008 as first secretary. She was in Tokyo from September 2008 to November 2009 as principal deputy director, and thereafter from November 2009 to January 2013 as principal deputy director in Tokyo. She was a senior coordinator in Tokyo from January 2013 to January 2014. She was Secretary General of Foreign Press Center, Japan from June 2014 to June 2017, and thereafter she was a counselor in Embassy of Japan in Singapore from June 2017 to April 2020. She is currently the current Consul General in Bengaluru for Japan, from April 2020 to till now. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak at the Bangalore Chamber of Commerce and Industries meeting of Indian diaspora residing in Japan. I would like to commend the Bangalore Chamber of Commerce and Industry for making tireless efforts in creating a vibrant business community in Karnataka and bridging Karnataka with other countries for the mutual prosperity and exchange of ideas. It is a great pleasure to know that BCIC will open its first overseas office in Tokyo to promote trade and commerce, tourism, and cultural exchanges between Bengaluru and Tokyo. This is most encouraging for those Japanese companies which aspire to enter into Karnataka and to establish their operational bases or to explore business partnership and investment opportunities. Japanese investment in Indian startups has grown rapidly over the last 5 years, with a particular emphasis on advanced areas such as AI, IoT, big data, and blockchain, reaching to the total sum of $9.2 billion in May 2021. This is a sevenfold increase over the last 16 years. Behind this rapidly increasing investment lies the higher expectations held by the Japanese companies towards the innovative skills of Indian companies. Bengaluru is India's innovation hub, the fourth largest technology cluster in the world, and has the third largest number of startups in the world at the city level, networking with major IT hubs around the world. One after another, the world's manufacturing giants are setting up their R&D centers here. JETRO Bengaluru's office has established the Japan-India Startup Hub in 2018. This initiative has provided a digital platform for Japanese and Indian startups, incubators, investors, and entrepreneurs. This has helped to provide a platform for communication and networking hub for driving proactive exchange of ideas, matching of events, and both virtual and physical meetings. There's an increasing trend of Japanese companies to move their overseas manufacturing bases from China. Companies are also beginning to choose +1 strategy to diversify and strengthen their supply chains. India, with its growing market and an abundant working talent, and as a base to export goods and services to the third world market in Middle East and Africa, is regarded as one of the most attractive destinations for Japan. The Karnataka government and the Japanese Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Bangalore have been holding regular discussion platforms called Dialogue Monitoring Committee and Project Facilitating Committee to resolve issues related to the business operations of Japanese companies. There is one weekly flight between Bangalore and Tokyo, operated by Japan Airlines under the Air Bubble Guideline. I hope that the direct flights connecting Bengaluru and Tokyo will become regular flights soon with more frequency and help to increase people-to-people exchange in various fields, as well as tourism between the two countries. A Bengaluru-based Japanese staffing agency has been training young Indian nurses and sent those who have completed the training programs to elderly care facilities in Japan. They have shown career development plan for each trainee so that they can work hard to attain their goals. As soon as the entry restrictions on long-term visas is eased or lifted, a new batch of trainees will be sent to Japan next year. We have more potential for collaboration between Bengaluru, Karnataka, and Japan. Japan's world standard manufacturing companies are aiming to create innovative business models through collaboration created by Japanese hardware technologies and Indian software technologies. In order to enhance cooperation between Karnataka and Japan, the Karnataka government, the Consulate General of Japan in Bengaluru, JETRO Bengaluru, JICA, the Japanese Chamber of Commerce and Industry Bangalore, and the Indo-Japan Chamber of Commerce and Industry Karnataka, together with BCIC, will be able to reach out to large, medium, and small Japanese companies interested in investing in India. Lastly, next year marks the 70th anniversary of the establishment of Japan-India diplomatic relations. I hope that this will be an opportunity to strengthen economic relations between Japan and Karnataka, and that more Japanese companies will invest in Karnataka, and that more Japanese will come to see the city of Bangalore and Karnataka to explore the future business opportunities or as a tourist destination. In conclusion, I would like to thank you again for this opportunity and look forward to closely working with all of you in the future. Thank you very much. Dhanyavada Garu.
Thank you, Madam. Thanks for your talk on opportunities that exist. Due to paucity of time, we now request Dr. Ravindran to propose a vote of thanks. We'll take up topics related to mutual sharing of working in India and Japan soon thereafter. Please stay tuned and please be online. I now request Dr. Ravindran to do the honors for vote of thanks.
Namaste, good evening, konnichiwa. As the Senior Vice President of the Bangalore Chamber of Industry and Commerce, I consider it as a privilege to have had a historic day today for our city, Bengaluru, our state, Karnataka, both the countries, Japan and India. BCIC, our chamber, under the aegis of his Japan office to be, is proud to have had its first event in Japan virtually with all your support. I wish and hope we meet physically sometime and on a Friday evening also host a get-together. We met His Excellency Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Verma-ji on November 23rd, and he's back again today. Thank you very much, sir. You gave wonderful views about the India-Japan ties. We also were very happy to hear from you the kind of startup culture that is possibly attracting both India and Japan to be together. And we certainly look forward to your guidance and support going forward. We also thank industrialist Shri Vikram Kirloskarji, Vice Chairman of Toyota Kirloskar Motor Private Limited and past President of the Confederation of Indian Industry. Our Chief Minister, Shri Basavaraj Bommaiji, our Industries Minister, Dr. Murgesh Nirani ji, Madam Gunjan Krishna ji, Commissioner of Industries, Her Excellency Madam Akiko Sugita-san, Consul General Japan in Bengaluru, Mr. Takashi Suzuki-san, Director General of JETRO Bengaluru, and Mr. Hiroshi Yanagisawa-san, Managing Director Toyota Shusho India Private Limited. From the bottom of my heart and from each one of us present in BCIC, we thank sincerely for your time and being part of this momentous occasion. Considering that all of you have very eminent roles to play in your organization, we value your time more sincerely. Last but not the least, I have to personally thank each one of you for attending today's meeting. This gives us the strength and the drive to take up much more initiatives in the coming year. It is pertinent to note that many industrialists did join, but this possibly became a monologue where we were only presenting ourselves. But much more is to culminate in the future when we try and meet each one of us and share as to the bondings that we can possibly evolve over time. More than anything else, this is also to commemorate the 70th anniversary celebrations of the offering of India-Japan ties in a big way and knowing each other's business relationships, culture, art, food, and many, many more. I'll be failing in my duty if I do not acknowledge the support and cooperation given by the staff members of the Indian Embassy in Tokyo, Shri Manoj Singh Negi, Shri Rajesh Dugalji and his team. My thanks, sincere thanks goes to our secretariat to have made this happen in a very short time. Please do stay back as we draw close to this formal event. There is a small little informal meeting that is likely to happen over 30 minutes. We wish and hope that the best thing emanate in the next 30 minutes. While I conclude this talk of mine with this vote of thanks, I wish and hope that the year 2022 augurs very well for both the chambers and also the India-Japan ties. And I wish each one of you and your family a wonderful year 2022 ahead. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Ravindran. We move on to the part B of our function, which is an informal function. I now request Mr. Hiroshi Yanagisawa, Managing Director of Toyota Tsusho India Private Limited, to share his experience on working in India. Mr. Yanagisawa has been in India for the past 4 years and 6 months. He has more than 30 years of experience working in Toyota Tsusho Corporation, Japan, and he has been in India and traveling various parts of India during the last 4.5 years. Let us hear from Mr. Yanagisawa. Over to you, Yanagisawa-san.
Konbanwa to all of you attending from Japan, and good afternoon to all in India. I'm Hiroshi Yanagisawa, Managing Director of Toyota Tsusho India Private Limited. I have been in Bangalore for about 4 years and 6 months now. I had the opportunity to travel to various parts of India during these years and meet many people. Bangalore in particular and India in general is a much happening and exciting place now. As you may know, there are several startups with many unicorns in India. This is a reflection of the emerging trend in innovation, rapid use of technology, and align ourselves to the new digital era. Bangalore has a maximum number of unicorns, with over 30% of India's unicorns. This also gives credence to Bangalore of being the skill capital of India. To give a push and to further support manufacturing, the government of Karnataka has recently announced an industrial policy with new initiatives. This will attract investors, especially Japanese companies, entering Karnataka with multiple new business opportunities. In addition to that, The state of Karnataka is also known for its rich culture, heritage place, and attracting tourists. The Indian government, led by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, is keen on strengthening India and Japan relationship. In commemoration of the 70th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between India and Japan in 2022, many great landmarks are expected to be achieved. These events will further deepen the mutual understanding between Japan and India in several areas like culture, arts, sports, education, tourism, and business. Wishing you all the very best. Please stay safe and healthy. Thank you very much for patiently hearing me. ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Yanagisawa-san. Thanks for the encouraging words. We just move on with the next speaker, Mr. K. Raghunandan. Mr. Raghunandan is an international advisor for Murata Machinery Limited, Japan. He is on the advisory executive board of IIT Bombay Alumni Association. He is a past president of IIT Bombay Alumni Association Japan chapter. He is also senior advisor to Pan IIT Alumni Association Japan Core Group. He is also a recipient of Distinguished Service Award from IIT Bombay. Over to you, Raghunandan-san. He is talking to us from Tokyo. Raghunandan-san. Well, we'll try to have him online again. Meanwhile, I now request Kuboki-san, who is the chief mentor of BCIC Japan, to say a few words. Over to you, Kuboki-san. Kuboki-san is well known in Karnataka. He speaks Kannada, he sings Kannada, and he has been in Bangalore for over 20 years. He's now gone back to his native Tokyo. Over to you, Kuboki-san. Kuboki-san, you are in mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, dignitaries from BCIC, starting from President Mr. Sekar, or past President in Parasuraman, and other dignitaries, Ambassador Sanjay Kumar Vermaji, and then Consular General of Bangalore, Sugita-san, and then JETRO Bangalore Director General, Suzuki-san, and the other dignitaries. I'm very glad to have an opportunity to say a few words. We extend a congratulations to the opening the BCIC Japan. Luckily, incidentally, we have next year we celebrate 70 years diplomatic relations. And for this, I'd like to highlight first, I'd like to talk about the development of India-Japan relationship for the last so many years. First, exchange between India and Japan it's been said to have begun in the 6th century when Buddhism introduced to Japan, and then it affected, it gave a strong influence to the Japanese culture, Japanese language, and Japanese god and goddess. So many areas. Since then, we have a strong relationship with India. After the Meiji Restoration, especially in 1868, we could observe a spiritual exchange between Rabindranath Tagore and then Tenshin Okamura, and followed by the Swami Vivekananda ji. And during the World War II, on the request of Ras Bihari Bose and later Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Japan helped India's struggle to get the complete independence from the colonial rule. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose unfortunately died in the airplane crash in Taiwan, and his ashes are still kept enshrined in a Japanese temple called Renkoji in Tokyo, waiting for his triumphant return to Mother India. I'm pleased to inform that Modi government renamed one of the Andaman Nicobar Island as Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Island in 2018. And then recently in BJP government declassified all the secret books related to Netaji, kept in the National Academy of India, digitized and then kept open to public. So in that way, revaluation of Netaji is going on. We should also remember the Radha Vinod Pal, an Indian judge who was appointed for the tribunal for the Far East in Tokyo. He is the only one judge said that submitted his judge, which insists all Japanese defendants were not guilty. After the World War II, in 1949, Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru donated an Indian elephant to Japan, Ueno Zoo in Tokyo. This brought a ray of hope into the lives of the Japanese people who still have not recovered from the defeat of the war. Japan and India signed a peace treaty agreement and established a diplomatic relationship in 1952. India did not join the Treaty of San Francisco, called Treaty of Peace with Japan. The treaty with India was one of the first piece of treaty Japan signed after World War II. And ever since the establishment of diplomatic relations, two countries have enjoyed cordial relations. In the post-World II period, India started export of iron ore to Japan. With that help, Japan could recover from the devastation, and then Japan was able to achieve high economic growth thanks to India's iron ore. In return, following Japanese Prime Minister Nobusuke Kishi, who visited India in 1957, Japan decided to give a first yen loan, what we make it official development assistance to India. And then India, the first country for the yen loan. And since then, Japan used to submit, given the yen loan. And then we found that recently this metro rail project all over India now have been proved as one of the good example of two countries. And now I hope that bullet train, Shinkansen, will be another example of the two countries. Under such circumstances, I'm sure BCIC's Japan office will surely play an important role, especially any related information available from JCIC Japan office. And in addition to that, those who will come to India, especially to Bangalore, BCIC will support the missions, and then BCIC will follow up the mission even after they go back to Japan. So that is a very good advantage for BCIC Japan office. So please, diaspora in Japan, please make a use of this office, and then we request you to help to increase the Japanese investment to India, and also we need Japan needs IT engineers to Japan. So please help Japan by sending these specialists. Thank you very much. Dhanyawad.
Thank you, Kuboki-san. By the way, Kuboki-san is the chief mentor of BCIC for our Japan office, and he's also one of the stakeholders in our initiative of setting up this particular office in Japan. We will next move on to next speaker, Mr. Dr. KG Suresh, who is the country head of BCIC Japan. Dr. Suresh did his education in India. He did his engineering and moved on to Tokyo for his career and did his PhD in information technology from Tokyo University. And he has been in Tokyo for over 33 years, and he has got a business partnering with Fujitsu. And Dr. Suresh is here with us in BCIC office, and he will give his thoughts on this whole diaspora meeting. Okay, over to you, Dr. Suresh.
Thank you, Murali-san. So, yeah, I'll be probably, talking just 3-4 minutes on, my experience in sharing what is my experience in Japan. So good afternoon and good evening, konbanwa minasan, nihon kara. I'm sure today being Friday, it's Bonenkai season in Japan. We are probably in between Bonenkai of some of you and in this meeting. So I'll make it quick. Why I picked up Bonenkai because, actually the idea of starting a company in Japan for me came when I was in a Bonenkai with some of my Japanese friends. That was way back in 1998. That time it's already 10 years when I was in Japan. I went to Japan sometime in 1989, doing my studies and then working for Fujitsu, and then started my own company after that. After a year after that, Bonenkai in 98, I started in 99. So studying, working, and entrepreneurial, I have experienced all those three in Japan. And, trying to share some of my key points because we are running a lot of back time. Actually, I picked up these three keywords what His Excellency Ambassador Verma has said. He said three key points that all might have noticed. Take Japan as a karma bhumi for you, and do value addition. Don't take India to Japan, and for Japanese friends, don't take Japan to India. So we need to do value addition in whatever we are doing in that particular country, and then be a bridge. So these are the three keywords and takeaway of His Excellency Ambassador, what I feel. And, I'm very proud I'm very happy rather to say that I did all these three all through my career in Japan. We all know Japanese people are very helpful, very, time conscious, importance to time, conscience based and everything, all known factor. But when you come to a business or work, it's purely depend on your jiseki, So jiseki means attention drive, that's what we normally say. So Japanese people are helpful socially, but then, when you come for work or business, you really need to show your, who are you, basically, bring up your individual capability and build a trust. So that's one which, I followed. And in my case, again, there's a commitment which, I have given to Japan and India relationship. And that's again very important, See, the commitment I cannot say right from the day I landed in Japan, that may be a false statement. Maybe once I started liking Japan in my first 6 months to 1 year, then I thought, this is the country where I need to be there. So since then, back in 1989, And right now, I'm giving all my things what I could do for Japan and for the India. That's where the bridge, you need to, even my first company when I started, my tagline was bridging brilliance. People who all know me knows that. So we thought atama o tsukatte nihon to Indo no ashikake shimashu to. So that's where that bridging brilliance word I coined sometime in 2000 when I started my first company. So that's what I liked when His Excellency said on the bridge. And we should do the value addition. We cannot just bring in Indian way of doing in Japan. So I tried to do that. I tried to bring in what is that not there in Japan from India, and try to on the way it's being helpful for both the countries and then the people who are associated with that. So the keyword here I'm going to tell is like the commitment. You need to be committed to Japan and India relationship and the business, and then it will all fall into place. See, once you are committed, the people around you will keep helping you, and thus you can build your own network. That's one. The other one, we all know that Japan is slow and steady, and it takes time, to get confidence. Again, as I said, to prove yourself, this is the key. So that takes time. I cannot just go today and then prove myself tomorrow. It's not possible. So that's why it is slow. Once they know who you are, and you will be there. You will shine there. And you need to be persistent for that. Even I hope some of you know very good Japanese will know that in Japan there's a chisakunde okiku sodatu, because we give a birth to a small child and then make the child to big. So that's the way we need to think in Japan when we do business in Japan. That goes for all others who are listening to this talk also. The other one is, of course, we all know we need to think long term in Japan, and that goes good for Japanese also who want to come to India. And India is also a slow and steady country comparatively, okay, but then it's ways to we need to think very long term, particularly when we do with Japan, and we need to focus on particular thing wherever you are and be extremely good in what you are doing, to bring all your skills up. Language is a factor, obviously. Japanese language is a factor, but I'm very sure that's not a showstopper. Language will help you, but it's definitely not a showstopper. I know I can say some of my friends who are not that great in Japanese language, but they are doing excellent in Japan. So, but of course, language helps to bring it. So that's where it is, and I think I'm running short of time. So the last word is like you should bring up your entrepreneurial skill. See, being Indians, we all proud that we take a lot of risk in our life. So we are very good entrepreneur. We are entrepreneur skills we have, and just use that. And that doesn't mean that you all should start the company. Doesn't mean that we all can start the company. It just means that use it in your work, use it in your daily work, and see how you can help the Japanese company you are working on, how you can bring in the business over there, from there to here or here to there. I'm going to be in Japan very soon, in next few days, and hope to meet you all personally there. So I stop here. Yeah.
Thank you, Suresh-san. Thanks for sharing your experiences. That would have been that's quite useful for many of us here. Next speaker for today is Mr. K. Raghunandan. Mr. Raghunandan is an advisor at Murata, and over to you, Mr. Raghunandan.
You have to unmute him.
You have to unmute him.
Yeah, last please.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Hello
we
there.
can hear.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we are running out of time, as I can see that. I'm sorry that this muting and unmuting thing was not in my control. Actually, I wanted to share some slides and talk over the slides, but most of the words from my mouth have been already taken out by my very good friend, Dr. Suresh here. And So therefore, I would like to, kind of keep it very short, rather than, telling what you should do and how I did it. I would rather tell you what I did. Kekka Shidai, So look at my Kekka and then probably you can see what is actually happened. So that is the way I was thinking of doing it. And in terms of, so this is the wrong file I have sent you, probably the Word file. But it doesn't matter. I will keep talking on this based on this. Basically, my initial contact with the Japanese was right from 50 years back. So actually, it is a 5 decades of my connection with Japan, and also more or less living in Japan, which you asked me to talk in 5 minutes. So I think it is an impossible task, but anyway, I was going to take it as a challenge. But it's a lot of time has already been spent now unnecessarily. So I'm sorry about that. So actually, my starting of this connection with Japan was early 70s itself, in the sense that I was working with a machine tool company. As already I was introduced, I'm a master's degree from IIT Bombay in machine tools. And even till today, I've been in machine tool field. And in the 70s, I had a lot of connection with the Japanese and other Americans and British engineers in the machine tool field coming to India. And I had an opportunity to work with a lot of them. And even at that stage, my mind was set on, looking east rather than looking west. That time, the 70s was the period when everybody was looking west, and I was already looking east for whatever the reason, in the sense that I was attracted to the Japanese way of working and efficiency and thinking and so on. And then a second point which came up was I came to Japan in 1980 on a training mission from where I was working in Bangalore at that time. And during that training mission also, I had a comparison with what I had a training in UK. And again, that actually really solidified my attraction to Japan. Not that I was looking for a job or anything in Japan at that time. It was just that I started really liking Japan tremendously. But then moving on to the 80s, I got out of the blue, I got an opportunity or a proposal from this company, Murata Machinery. And they asked me to join them because India was the market at that time for machine tools, coming up with the new CNC controls and things like this. So basically, it was an opportunity which I was not really thinking about, and then it just suddenly came up and I jumped on it. I went against my family and everybody, and they said, why you're going to East? You got a lot of opportunities in the West. But still I moved with my family, my children, 2 kids, to Japan and settled down in a small town in the central Japan, a place called Inuyama. So my life in Japan started there, basically speaking. And subsequently, that was the 80s was the bubble era of Japan. And I came to Japan for the first 3 years on a contract kind of thing with the company, with some special perquisites and salaries and all that. But after the 3 years, they made me into a regular employee in the company. And I also became a export sales manager, from a sales engineering to export sales manager. So it was all, as Dr. Suresh already said, you have to work hard. Probably you have to work overtime, you have to work, put your mind to it and things like this. Probably I did that, and that's how I came up from sales engineering to export sales manager. I was looking after the whole of the world except the Japanese speaking and the Chinese speaking countries. From there on, I moved to the 90s, and that is when the Japan's boom went to a bust era kind of thing. And our company also merged back. It was an American collaboration with the Murata Japanese company, and that was merged back into the Murata parent company. And so I also had to shift my focus. So at that time, the Indian economy was really opening up. The import licenses for machine tools were more or less abolished. Customs duties came down drastically from 150% to 30%. And you could see a lot of low-cost machines from South Korea and Taiwan flooding the Indian market. On the other hand, our Muratec started shifting its focus to high-end CNC machines with automation and so on. So therefore, the result was that I had to shift my focus from India, unfortunately, at that time, to Western Europe, where there was a bigger market. And so I suggested in that period that we can set up a complete network of sales and marketing and turnkey technology centers in Europe, which was accepted by my company immediately. And moving on to the next era, that is the zeros, that is the present millennium, you can say, the first decade in this millennium. That was my European era. But also, it was the Indian revival era, because after I moved to Germany, in fact, for about 7 years, I set up all the things in Europe for my company as a general manager there. But after that, I came back to Japan, and that was the time when the Indian market was again coming back in a sense. And my friend again, who is sitting there next to Dr. Suresh, is Mr. Srinivasan. He was also with me in Japan for a long time. He came back to India and he set up this company in Mayban in Bangalore. So that was an opportunity for me when I came back to Japan from Europe, that I proposed to the company that we should start a proper technology center in India. And again, they accepted. At that time, actually, I was already in semi-retirement stage, but still they wanted me to continue as an advisor. And that's what I did. And so subsequently, of course, I was doing other countries also, like Brazil, for example. But as I said, between Brazil and India, the Brazil did not work out. India worked out. Thanks to, of course, all the help with the setting up by Mr. Srinivasan there. But also, the main reason for this was I heard just now that Srinivasan is heading the some kind of ease of doing business committee. So that was the thing which started 8 years back, I suppose, by the new political government in India. And with that as an opportunity, I told my company again that we should now go full-fledged into technology center in India, in Bangalore. And again, they accepted. And so then that is the seed for starting up this technology center with Mayban in Bangalore. And that's how now we are done successfully there. We could not do the similar things in several other countries like China, for example, or in Brazil. But India was a success story as far as and I'm very proud to say that that happened only because of our hard work and nothing else. And of course, the local engineering skills available, which we could develop quite easily. So that was the last decade, you can say. And with that, I should say now we are now in the 2020, that is the second decade of this millennium. And what will be the future? I won't know. But I'm sure that one of the new norms after this COVID is going to be more people will be working from home, which I'm already doing now in Japan, of course. I'm retired, but still continuing to work like this. And I wish BCAC and all the related organizations there all the best in their efforts to enhance India and Japan relationships. And thank you for the attention for this quick span. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Raghunathan-san, for sharing your experiences. Very useful for our viewers here. We have one more speaker who has been in Japan for quite long, Mr. Harikrishna Bhatt. Bhatt-san has been there for over 40 years in Japan. He is also an engineer qualified from National Institute of Technology here in Mangalore. and moved on there for career prospects. Over to you, Batsan. Please make it short, make it maybe 3 minutes. Batsan, over to you.
Yeah, I think the video is off now. Yeah, my name is Hari Krishna Bhatt, Kumbama from the land of rising sun, and my Karma Bhumi, where I spent, now I'm completing 41 years now. So, of course, with an Indian passport, I'm still an Indian in Japan.
Mr. Bhatt, I think we are good companions. I'm also 41st year with an Indian passport in Japan.
Yeah, and I came here in 1981, January 24. Soon I will be completing my 41 years with a scholarship from Mombusho to do my research and post-graduation. Then I worked for Japanese semiconductor equipment companies for 16 years before I moved to the Indian IT hub. Worked for Sasken Wipro as vice president and HCL Japan as president and representative director. And for the last 8 years, I worked as consultants for various Indian IT companies, including Sasken, L&T, etc. And since 2019, I moved to the education. That is, now I am the director of international collaborations for a university in Mangalore, which is a leading university. And today my main job is to bring these fresh engineers to Japan. I already succeeded bringing 30 engineers in 2 years in spite of this unwanted COVID. And already completed MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, with 5 leading Japanese universities. And I convinced Japanese industries to move to India, starting with Center of Excellence and then Incubation Center and R&D centers. And of course, my dream, as you know, I'm already 66. I came to Japan when I was 25, and now I am 41. 41 plus 25 is 66 years. And I still have my dream of connecting India and Japan, bridging through university or through this BCIC. And as you may be knowing that I am from Mangalore, Udupi, where we have dozens of leading good universities, and the students do not get good opportunities locally. So they either move to other cities or they stay back at home. So it is my wish that through BCIC, we will have more Japanese companies to be established in that region of Mangalore and Udupi, so that the local intelligent and intellects will stay back at their home. It's not just Tumkuru hub, which Chief Minister of Karnataka mentioned, but I wish that such Japanese hubs will be established in places like Mangalore and Udupi. And as you know, I am not just a Indian staying in Japan. I'm a semiconductor man, I'm an equipment man, I'm a software, I'm embedded, and I'm IT, and I'm in education. So I can help BCIC in any form of bridging and connecting India and Japan. That's very short, and anyone needed more explanation can reach me anytime. Now I'm in Japan, and I'm communicating between Japan and India twice or thrice a year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hari-san. Thanks very much for joining us. Just for benefit of members, we have 3 students here in BCIC office who are all doing engineering courses from Sona Institute of Technology here in Salem. And Sona Institute of Technology has got a optional subject, Japanese language, where 1,000 plus students are learning Japanese language. And we have with us one student by name Lina Rose, I'm sorry. She will just speak to you for a couple of minutes. Over to you, Lina.
Minasama, konnichiwa, hajime mashite, watakushi Lina Rose to moshimasu. Ima 21 歳でございます。出身は神様の国と言われているケララ州のコチです。 ソーナ国家大学の4年生です。専門はコンピュータ工学です。私の大学で日本人の先生に日本語を勉強する機会があるので勉強しております。私は今年JLPT N3 を受けました。私はなぜ日本語を勉強しているかというと、日本についていいことといろいろな文化を聞いてもっと好きになりましたからです。私の趣味は小説を読むことです。そして料理を作ることです。このような機会を与えてくださった BCIC に心から本当にありがとうございました。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Thank you, Rima. Very nice of you. Thanks for joining. And here we have Mr. Mohan. Mohan, over to you, Mohan.
皆様、こんにちは。はじめまして。私、モハン・バブジーと申します。21歳です。私の出身はタミルナド州のビルドナガーという町です。ソーナ工科大学の4年生です。コンピュータ工学を勉強しております。日本語を日本人の先生に勉強しています。今月、日本語入力試験の N3 を受けました。なぜ日本語を勉強しているかというと、私は高校生の時から日本のアニメや文化や料理などが好きになって、いつか日本に働くためです。ここで私の自己紹介をさせてくださった BCIC に私の感謝をいたします。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Thanks, Mohan. Vinay, we have one more student by name Vinay. Vinay, over to you.
皆様、こんにちは。はじめまして。私、ビネグマと申します。今年21歳でございます。出身はタミルナド州のオスという町です。ソーナ工科大学の4年生です。専門は電子コミュニケーション工学です。日本で働くために日本語を勉強しています。日本人の先生に日本語を勉強しています。N5 に合格しました。N3 を JLPT で受験しました。Python に興味があるので、今 Python を勉強しています。そして日本で Python を関する仕事をしたいです。私の長所は新しい環境に適応できることです。趣味は映画を見ることです。私にこの機会を与えてくださった BCIC にありがとうございます。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Thanks, Vinay. That was great. Fine, friends, you have anything to ask? We have just few minutes for a Q&A session. If there are any questions, you can drop that in the chat box. Otherwise, you can raise your hands. We'll try to unmute you. You can speak. Can you just read it out?
Read out. Nothing.
Can someone read it out?
Thanks.
Okay.
And
right.
So Morlison, by the way, there are JLPT exam, what we have said. There were about 2,250 people only in Bangalore Center this time for Japanese language. And out of that, I think 1,500 have taken the test. Because of this new corona, many of them has not come. This is only for the Bangalore Center, like this we have Chennai Center, Pune, Mumbai, So there are quite a good traction now for Japanese language here in India.
Thanks very much. We have Mr. Anil Raj who has raised his hand. Anil Raj, please unmute and bring yourself on camera and you can give me.
Thank you,
Melissa.
Thank you.
By the way, Mr. Anil Raj runs 3 restaurants in Tokyo by name Nirvana, and he is native of Rajarajeshwari Nagar here in Bangalore. Over to you, Mr. Anil Raj.
Thank you, Murli sir. Thank you, Shekhar sir, and thank you, His Excellency Sanjay Kumar Verma sir. Her Excellency Akiko Sugita-san. I've been in Japan for 22 years and mainly I was working for the investment banking industry, mainly for Swiss Bank, German Bank and Citibank. And while I was working, I started my business in 2005, which was a single South Indian restaurant. We were one of the first South Indian restaurants in Japan. And currently we have 6 Indian restaurants. And we have a kindergarten school in Japan. And we also run an IT company called Nehan Technologies in Japan. So I basically come from the IT background, but of course, for a restaurant was just as a business rather than I'm not good at food, or I don't cook food at home at all. Okay, so yeah, I think a lot of important points have been raised by Sanjay Kumar Verma sir and Suresh sir. So I think one important point that Suresh sir mentioned was that language is not the ultimate thing. Okay, but you have to go beyond language. A lot of people stop at a point where their language is a handicap. No, yes, language is of course a handicap, but that's not a showstopper. So I think BCIC can make use of a lot of expat knowledge like Raghunan sir and Harish Krishna Bhatt sir, who are our seniors here. And there's a lot of diaspora, there's a lot of knowledge around in Japan with Indians abroad, Indians in Japan. I think we should be able to make use of that and go forward in the development of India-Japan and Bangalore-Japan relationship. Thank you.
Thanks, Anil-san. Thanks for joining at short notice. So with this, we'll try to wind up today's diaspora meeting. Thanks for joining us. We apologize for stepping out of time. We are almost delayed by more than 15 minutes. I'm sorry about that. And Mr. Parasuraman, I can see him on screen. Would like to. Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
30 seconds.
Screen is yours.
First of all, I would like to, I'm very happy to see my good friend, Mr. Raghunandan. Sir, very happy to see you. And Mr. Hari Krishnan and Kubaki-san and Suresh-san, I think, thank you so much. See, today was a great day, in fact, in the history of Chambers, because we could meet great people and hear your views. And Mr. Anil Raj also, thank you so much. In fact, last year we started this Bangalore Chambers office with a bigger purpose. I think today, after listening to all of you, I'm very, very happy. And I think our journey starts from now on. We got tremendous support from people like Mr. Kuboki, I think who have been really doing a great human service, I would say, because the kind of selflessness and the kind of passion they brought in, like Dr. Suresh, KG Suresh again, I think the kind of, when we said go, I think the kind of support we got from Suresh-san, Kuboki-san, and Yanagisawa-san and Suzuki-san is amazing. And AVS also supported us in a big way. I think AVS-san, thank you so much. And our entire team worked very hard. But I feel that we have a long, long way to go. I think it's just the basic of a very starting point. But after seeing all of you, I feel so excited because I think we can definitely go much further and our just journey started. So I think I request all of you, I think to continue to guide us. In fact, Raghunandan San is my good friend. In fact, our relationship is almost now 30 years now and 30 plus years. And of course, we know Suresh-san and Kubaki-san also for a long, long time. And AVS, of course, is also 30 plus years of relationship. So I think this team core group, I think, is very, very important. I think that this core group mentoring us. And I'm very happy to listen to Hari Krishnan-san and Anil Raj-san. I think my memory is also with Japan. In fact, I love that country. I love the people, I love the culture. And in fact, very beautiful language. So in a very funny way, I learned the language. I learned Kashi Kumari Mashta as Kashi to Kanyakumari. A very jovial way. And, it's such a beautiful language, depicting the culture of people. It's not just the language, I think somebody said. It is the heart of people. Therefore, today's diaspora, I think our president, Shekhar, is there, and I think Dr. Ravindran, I think the entire team, Indu Shekhar ji, the entire team has really worked very hard. And I'm very thankful to all of you. And I look forward. And today's diaspora has given us a lot of confidence. Maybe many business people would not have participated, but I think you have been the lighthouse of the future activities. Therefore, I look forward to connecting with all of you. And thank you once again for a wonderful day today. In spite of a very long day, today almost it is 6 o'clock in Japan. Otskari samadishta. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Thanks very much, Prasan.
And I also thank the young children also, wonderful young children, boys and girls, sorry. Really
Students.
hats off to the 3 children. I would like to meet them. But I'm also the governing council member of Sona College. So in fact, I was very happy to see 3 Japanese full-time teachers working there. And I think that day I realized a long way to go. I'm very happy to see 3 young students.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. We'll now wind up. Just stay tuned. We have this virtual thank you. Just a minute. Thanks one and all for joining, and wish you all a very pleasant stay in Japan. Please stay safe and healthy, and wish you and your families a very happy New Year 2022 and a Merry Christmas. Thank you all.
And we will send
Thanks
these
for joining.
mementos by courier to you. We'll ensure that it is a small memento from Bangalore Chambers. Once again, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.